Hi, I'm Dr. M.Klugman. I'm an associate professor and assistant director of ethics education for the Center of Medical Humanities and Ethics at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. And I'm here today to talk to you about completing your advanced directives through a program that we call WhatIsALivingWill.org. And this is an online advanced directive completion program. Similar things exist in some other states, such as Nevada, but this is just a part of the process of how you would go about doing this procedure. So TexasLivingWill.org is a program that is online. It is educational components. It is web-based, and we put it up. It was provided funding by AT&T, and it's sponsored by the Center for Medical Humanities and Ethics, as well as the Ecumenical Center for Religion and Health, both here in San Antonio, Texas. And so if you log on to TexasLivingWill.org, what you see is this lovely web page and instructions as to what you want to do. So if you want to just explore the site, you can look at it as an educational resource to learn more about advanced care planning, to learn about what living wills are, what advanced directives are, and how the statutes of Texas might affect your decisions at the end of life. An advanced directive is a document that you would put together in order to make sure that your wishes about end-of-life medical treatment and care are known. A way of you having some control over what might happen to you when you are no longer willing or able to make your own choices. It's composed of several different components, and we'll discuss two of those here, which are the directive to the physician and family, as well as the medical power of attorney. One of the great things about this website is that it is also completely available in Spanish. So anything you see in English is also available in Spanish and vice versa. And when you are finished filling out the interview portion of this, which helps you fill out your advanced directive forms, you can actually print it out in either or both languages. So if you are a native Spanish speaker, you can complete this document in Spanish and then print it out in an English copy so that you can give that to your physician and have Spanish copies for your relatives who may be more comfortable in Spanish. Or vice versa, you can complete it in English and print it out in Spanish. So it's one of the great features that we've put together into this website. Different sections on here to look at, such as frequently asked questions, which include things like what is an advanced directive, what are components, do you need an attorney to complete them, and the answers to these questions are that you do not need an attorney to complete these documents, which is why they're available on the website. But many people feel more comfortable seeking the services of an attorney. Most people do complete their advanced directives and receive their information from an attorney. So it's part of that process of putting your entire estate together from your attorney. But these are also available from hospitals and doctors' offices and, again, on the website. You will probably want to complete these when you are well, when you're able to think about this, but also when you have some time to reason and think about your wishes and your desires. These are recognized in other states, and they will be honored, but to the limits of what is available in that state. So when you travel, that might be a consideration. If you're traveling internationally, then the country may or may not honor this document at all, so that might be something to think about. So copies of these documents should probably be part of your papers when you travel. An advanced directive has, beyond the directive to the physician and the medical power of attorney, some states also offer the out-of-hospital DNR and the directive for mental health treatment. All of these documents are available on this website, and, but the interview only does the first two because they're the most common. The out-of-hospital DNR is one that you would complete when you had a terminal illness or irreversible condition, and the directive for mental health treatment is not completed by very many people unless you know you have a history and are likely to need mental commitment into the future. This would help give some indication of the treatments that you would and would not want. The definitions section is also very useful in here. So when you're going through the document, completing it, if there's a criteria, a topic that you don't know much about, say you don't know much about respiratory support, so helping you to breathe, there's a little circle with a question mark on it, and you just put your cursor on that, click, and it'll bring up an explanation that was written by a physician in very easy to understand language as to what is available. You can also open a file, and it's a PDF file that will open, and it will give an alphabetical listing of all the definitions on the website, so you can use it as a way to train yourself and to understand more about this process. We also have some information on the topic of advanced care planning, which is also available here as a separate recording. And so you can really learn a lot about the laws in the state of Texas, as well as the concepts and what is behind this sort of documentation. So to use the website, you would create a document. You have to provide a username and password. Some people have been concerned about this, but the reason is that we keep a copy on the website. So once you go in and fill it out, it is there. That way you can print off a copy at any time. It is not considered a legal copy because you need to print it out and sign it. And so a signed copy is what is considered legal. And right now we do not have electronic signatures that we are able to use on the website or that are recognized by the state of Texas. You can also go back in and make changes at any time without having to completely redo the documentation. So if somebody should move, if your surrogate which should move, you can just go in and put in a new address or phone number, print it out, and not having to fill out the entire form. I do recommend that you can recomplete this document, print out a new version at least every 5 years, even if nothing. For the simple reason that when these are challenged, one of the common things is, oh, that was filled out 10 or 15 years ago. It doesn't really reflect what they would have wanted now. So by making it more frequent within 5 years, even if you've changed nothing, you are kind of making sure that there's a greater chance that your desires and wishes will be honored. So I highly recommend doing it every 5 years, if not sooner, and whenever you have any major change of life. So if you're married, divorced, if you have a child, if you move to a new state, you probably want to redo this. And you should have one for the state in which you reside. As I said, all states will honor the ones that come from other states, but you really need to complete the one that follows the rules and statutes of the state in which you're residing. The nice thing about the interview processes that we have in here is that it gives you a lot of choices as to what you would and would not want. And if you're not trained in medicine or in health law, these are things you might not think about or consider. So, for example, would you want dialysis? And if you aren't really sure what dialysis here is, you can click on this little question mark, and it will give you more information about what dialysis is and what it entails. So you can state here that if it's clinically appropriate and offered by your physician, that you do not want it, or that you do want it. Blood and blood products might be another choice. Respiratory support, this would be a ventilator or a respirator. Intubation would be sort of things. Then we also have some things that most advanced directives don't have. One of the hardest areas of medical research for us to learn things about is people at the end of life, because they're considered a vulnerable population. And there is no way to ask them often if they want to participate in research. These directives only come into play when you have, at least in Texas, a terminal illness or an irreversible condition, and you are no longer choices. So you can't reason, you can't express them, you are unable to do that. Otherwise, this portion of the document does not come into play. So it's important to think about these things, because nobody will be able to ask you when this is valid. Nobody will be able to ask you what it is you would want or to refine it. So if you would be interested at the end of life in maybe participating in research that would potentially have some benefit to you, you can indicate that here. If you wanted surgery that would palliate, that is to make things easier for you. So some surgeries can be used to ease your pain and suffering, and some surgeries are used for curing. You might be at the point in your disease progress where you cannot be cured, you can simply be treated at that point and made comfortable. Whether you would want surgery at that point to help you ease your suffering a little bit is a question that you can indicate here. We also have some indicators of values, because in the end, when we're having this list of treatments, nobody knows, even with a crystal ball, how you will die and what the exact circumstances would be. So any tool that you can offer your friends and family to help them make this choice, to know what you would want, is a valuable thing to make sure that your wishes are honored, and also to take the burden off of them for knowing, did we make the choice that our loved one would have wanted or would not have wanted? And that can often provide guilt, and I've seen many families run asunder over this very fact. So those are things that you might want to think about. So the value statements are, is quality of life more important than quantity, or is quantity more important than quality? Do you want pain relief even if it shortens your life? One important thing to note is that whatever you decide you do want or you don't want, the one thing that you will have, that you must have, by every law and every ethical precept that exists in medicine, nursing, and any other healthcare profession, is comfort care. So no matter what you choose here, you will always be given pain control. You will always be given ice on your lips and moisturizer. You will always be made comfortable and pain-free, and that is required. So comfort care measures, even if you wanted to get rid of them, you couldn't. Those will always be provided. That is required by law. We also provide here on the website a box, and this is actually something to make sure you do in all advanced directives, is to fill in any other requests or concerns you have in the box to make sure those are known. You can, if you are completing this for another state that doesn't have the interview portion, or if you have just gone to our forms section of the website and pulled off an empty form, it may have these things. Or if you're writing a letter or doing some other thing, you can use this as a guide to help you in completing your advanced directive. The other portion of the advanced directive is the medical power of attorney. In some places it's known as a durable power of attorney for healthcare. This is probably the most important part of the document. This is where you're designating somebody to be your proxy or your surrogate decision maker when you are no longer able to. Unlike the directive portion, this portion comes into play anytime that you cannot make your own choices. So if you have dementia, this would come into play. If you have a car accident and you're unconscious, this comes into play. If you faint, this comes into play. Whereas that is not the case with the directive. That requires that you have a terminal illness or irreversible condition. So it's very important to be wise about choosing who is your medical power of attorney. And the person that might be most obvious may not necessarily be the best choice. So a lot of people choose their spouse, the person closest to them. What you have to ask yourself is, will this person be emotionally removed enough to make the choice? Will they be choosing what I want or what they want and what makes them feel better? So you want somebody who will really honor their wishes. One of my mentors tells a story of choosing her medical power of attorney. And she says that she went to her husband and she said, this is what I would want. Could you honor that? And he replied, no, I could never remove the plug on my wife. And so she went to her parents and she said to her parents, this is what I want at the end of my life. Will you be able to follow that? And they said, no, we could never pull the plug on our daughter. So she goes to her in-laws. She says to her in-laws, this is what I want at the end of my life. Would you be comfortable pulling the plug? And they said, yeah, sure, no problem. And it may seem like a joke. It may seem like a stereotype. But she went and had the conversation, which is the most important thing, explained what she wanted, and saw, will you be able to follow my wishes, not your wishes or what you would hope for, whether you hope for a miracle, whether you hope for a recovery. Based on the best medical data and evidence and opinions, this is what I would want. Can you follow that? So this is probably the most important choice that you can make in filling out all these documents, is choosing your medical power of attorney. And you can change it at any time. You can change anything in these documents. Remember, if you do it on WhatIsALivingWill.org, it saves it. So you can go in and make refinements. You don't have to complete it all at one time. You can do it pieces at a time. The version of your Living Will, your advanced directive, that is legal is the most current one. So completing a new one actually takes the other ones out of play. They are no longer legal. You can always tear them up at any time. So these documents are fluid. They can change. You can change them as often as you'd like. You have control and access over that. Once you are done with the interview portion on WhatIsALivingWill.org or completing your advanced directive, you then want to print it out in the language of your choice if you're using our program. And you need, at least in Texas, to sign it in front of 2 witnesses. And there's a place here where you can put in their name and address and have that print out and stored as well. Or you can just write it in at the end. Some states will require a notary or give you an option of witnesses or notary. But in Texas, you need to have 2 witnesses who you sign it in front of. And that's it. The next question then is, once you've completed it, you've got your account, you set it up, it's stored, is where do you put this signed document? Where do you put the legal document? And it's very important to distribute these widely. So you want to make copies. Copies of an advanced directive are legal. You want to give them to your family members Anybody who is over 18 who you feel comfortable would be able to have your interests in mind. Friends, close friends, you want to make sure your medical power of attorney or your surrogate has a copy. Your doctor, if you have a regular doctor or a practice that you go to, you want to make sure that they have a copy. If there's a local hospital that is the one you would go to or the one your insurance sends you to, make sure they have a copy in your records. Have your attorney have a copy. Where you do not want to put it is with your last will and testament. Safe deposit box, in your safe, because those are things that people will not access until after you are dead. And you need this information. These documents are about your care when you're still alive. So it's very important that these be available where you can find them. Some people, including myself, have turned them into JPEG files, and I uploaded it to my Facebook page. So people put them on their networking sites. I have a colleague who has actually put hers on a cell phone as a little photo album on her cell phone, so it's available. You can also create a wallet card and put down your emergency information and say my surrogate and their contact information so that they can have it. I had a colleague who actually shrunk his down on a photocopier to a size that he could slip it into your wallet. People keep these in their glove boxes. We said earlier about with your travel documents. So this is not considered private health information. There's nothing about you, your diagnosis, your treatment in this at all. It is simply a statement of wishes. Just about everything else is public information. So giving these out to people will not have a negative effect. Again, if you do have an advance directive, comfort measures will always be taken. Nobody would ever consider, there are some beliefs and fears that having this document means you get less care than other people. Remember, the document is about control, and it's about having your wishes honored. So if you want everything done, that's not an issue. And nobody will treat you any differently because you have one than if you don't have one. What you're simply doing is making the healthcare decision-making process for your doctors, for your family members, for your friends to be a lot easier. Some states, actually, there's just a handful of states, actually have a place where you can indicate on your driver's license that you have an advance directive. And we have an example here. You'll see the image of the back of the Texas driver's license, and there's the check mark is floating above the spot that says directive to physician has been filed, that telephone number. And if you check this box, I actually recommend putting a sticker on it because you'll find that even a Sharpie or a permanent marker isn't very permanent, doesn't last very long on here. So cutting out a little black sticker that you can put on there and cover that dot and writing a phone number on a piece of paper would be another way that you could indicate where this document might be. And if you happen to be hospitalized and you can't find your advance directive, but you've done it through TexasLivingWill.org, you can always ask somebody to print off another copy and sign it right there. So that's also another option that's available. So this was a discussion about advance directives and TexasLivingWill.org. I'm Dr. Craig Klugman. Thank you very much.